how Jay-Z became hip-hop's first ever billionaire. Now, if you grew up in the 90s or the noughties, I'm sure you heard of the rapper Jay-Z. Now, as a kid, Jay-Z was one of my most favourite rappers. I mean, he got me into trouble loads of times, especially after me mistakenly expressing to my mom that I had 99 problems but my bitch ain't one. I remember I did get a backhand in the face for that one. But anyway, like I said, as a kid, I grew up on Jay-Z's music, and as I've grown up, I've kind of witnessed how his music has evolved as time passes. Now, if you've listened to his verse on the track What's Free on Meek Mill's album with Rick Ross, he said a couple bars that actually blew my mind. He went along on the track to say, "I'm 50% of Douce and it's debt free, 100% of Ace of Spades worth half a B. Rock Nation, half of that's my piece, 100% entitled to bust it up with my G's." And he then went on to say, "I ain't got a billion streams, I got $1 billion. Now, I'm sure you know that rappers do tend to exaggerate the amount of money that they have, and it's usually typical for them to do that, so it went over my head as a typical rap lyric. But when I was scrolling through Instagram, I saw a news post on a page, and this page on Instagram was Forbes, and it read the title, "Hip Hop's First Ever Billionaire, and the highest earning rapper is Jay-Z." Now, this blew my mind because I always assumed that Dr. Dre was hip hop's first billionaire, but when I started to do some research, I realised he actually wasn't. Even though he did make a shit ton of money from the sale of his headphone company Beats to Apple, and there was loads of talk about how this made Dr. Dre a billionaire, when in reality it was actually a misconception. Even though Apple paid $3 billion for Beats, Forbes estimated that he only owned 20 to 25% of the company, and through that transaction he made just over $500 million. Now, don't ever get it twisted, that is a shitload of money, and it's a remarkable and historic achievement. But even with this transaction under the belt, Dre sits on the number 2 spot as of now, and one in front of Diddy and one behind Jay-Z as the highest earning rapper. So this actually led me back to the bar that Hov dropped in the What's Free track. He actually does have $1 billion for real. Now, how badass is that? And like usual, this is an entrepreneurship channel. When it comes to business and skills for entrepreneurs, this is what I want to share to the world. And this realization definitely made me do a deep dive and conduct some research on Jay-Z, and led me to find out what us entrepreneurs can learn from hip hop's first ever billionaire. Now, before I go on, I would just like to say, if you are interested in similar content like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comment box if you want more content like this. I can even come back and cover Dre's sale of Beats, because that's still crazy. And again, us entrepreneurs can definitely take some knowledge from that type of scenario and apply it to our own business. So make sure you let me know in the comment box and I'll get working right away to create a series. Now, there's a lot of history with Jay, and I'm not really going to go into things like rap beefs and disputes, even though Ether was one of the greatest diss tracks of all time, in my opinion. That's just my view. But what I'm really going to do is focus on the business standpoint in this video. And again, there are loads of factors that contributed to Jay-Z's success, but in this video I'm really going to go into depth with just one strategy, one very powerful strategy that he used from day one of his rap career to get to where he is now. And that strategy is of him becoming self-reliant and making everything his own. When you work for others, you are at their mercy. They own your work and they own you. And because of this, your creative spirit is squashed. And what keeps you in such positions is the fear of having to sink or swim on your own. But instead of fearing going out on your own, you should have a greater fear of what will happen to you if you remain dependent on others for power. Your goal in every maneuver in life must be ownership. Work in the corner for yourself, because when it's yours to lose, you are more motivated, more creative, and more alive. The ultimate power in life is to be completely self-reliant and completely yourself. Now, to put this into context, we need to go back in time and break down Jay-Z's life story. Jay was born in the notorious Marcy Projects in Brooklyn, New York, and before becoming a proper rapper, he was a drug dealer. But once he realised the game wasn't worth it, he then went on to pursue a career in rap. Due to no major record labels wanting to sign him, he started out selling his CDs out of his car on the block. Very similar to the drug game, but just a different product. And eventually, Jay and producer Damon Dash and Kareem Biggs Burke started ROC-A-FELLA Records in 1995. And in 1996, Jay released his first album, Reasonable Doubt, under the ROC-A-FELLA record label, which was a smash hit. They then went on to sell half of their label to Def Jam Records for $1.5 million and the other half in 2004 for a further $10 million, who Jay was made president of the label, and out of that he went on to create another successful record label which is known as ROC-Nation. Now, from his music career alone, he has had tremendous success, from racking up 22 Grammys to having multiple smash hit albums and collaborations. Now, there's no denying he has made a huge amount of his wealth through music. According to The Richest, his music catalogue alone is worth $75 million, and his worldwide tour of the album 444 in 2017 grossed nearly $50 million, making just over $1.5 million per show. So it would be bullshit to say that Jay hasn't made a lot of money through music. But that's not to deny he's also made a lot of money through multiple business ventures. Now, here's the thing. Unlike traditional rappers who would get paid to promote brands, Hov had a completely different mindset. He came with the idea of owning his own brand, and this is the key thing, and this refers back to the strategy I'm discussing here, becoming self-reliant. Your goal in every maneuver of life must be ownership, working for yourself. The ultimate power in life is to become completely self-reliant. Through his business ventures, Jay always comes from the angle of obtaining some kind of ownership and equity. And this makes him a much more valuable player in the game, exactly like the game of chess. Now, a knight has a lot more value than a pawn because of its power and capability to move in different ways. But let me ask you a question. What is the most important piece in chess? That's right, it's the king. And why is that? Because he controls the game. Everything revolves around the king, and because of the control and power he has over the game, we can use the metaphor that the king essentially owns the game. And that's the power as an entrepreneur you have when you come from an angle of ownership. Jay's business ventures and investments range from industry to industry, from his music streaming service Tidal to a luxury champagne company called Armand de Brianc, commonly referred to as Ace of Spades, to other ventures such as investing in Uber back in 2011, and to even a hugely successful clothing brand in the past called ROC-A. And this is what differentiates him from a lot of different rappers, this angle of ownership. The thing is though, this path of building ownership and becoming self-reliant is so much harder, and it takes a lot longer than any shorter term gratification, which is what a lot of people usually look for. But that's the reason why a lot of rappers and even people in general will never hit the billionaire status. And after a good musical career at Def Jam and spending some time as the label's president and CEO, Jay bought out his own contract for $5 million. And by leaving Def Jam, it gave him the opportunity and freedom to sign to ROC-Nation, a label he founded as part of a 10-year partnership with Live Nation worth $200 million. And he refers to this in the track Onto the Next One. I don't get dropped, I dropped the label. Now, early in his career, he was heavily involved with the promotion of the champagne Cristal, but after the company made some remarks that a lot of people took as being potentially racist, Jay boycotted the company, which then led him to acquire Armand de Brianc. And he talks about this in What's Free again with the lyrics, 100% of Ace of Spades worth half a B. And how crazy is that? Everyone looks at Hov like some god in the rap game, and the reason for that is because of his power and influence. Now, I'm sure you all know the legal things that were going on with the rapper Meek Mill in America, but it really wasn't until Jay came in and intervened in the situation where things really started to work in Meek Mill's favour. Even here in the UK, now if you've never heard of the rapper Rapman, you need to go check him out, because in my opinion, he's the best rap storyteller in the UK. And I remember listening to him back in 2015, and he was doing and the thing is, Rapman was doing a lot of stuff for years, but he wasn't getting the recognition he deserves until he created Chiro's Story. And bearing in mind, Rapman did this all on his own, but this piece of content caught Jay's eye, and because of him being blown away by it, Jay signed Rapman to The Rock, and that's where Rapman really started to gain the proper recognition he deserves. Now, before I get people saying, oh, you're acting as if Jay-Z did all Blue Story himself and Rapman was a small part, that's gas. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that when Jay-Z intervened with Rapman, it sped the process up by 10. Same thing as Meek Mill, because of the power and control he has. And again, how did Jay-Z get to this point of having such power and control? Is by using the strategy of becoming self-reliant. Even with his music streaming service Tidal, he didn't agree with how Spotify were treating artists bad, so he set up his own service, which he sold 33% for $200 million. Do you start to see what I mean? The point I'm making about being self-reliant is that not only does it allow you to have the opportunity to make more money, but it's the much greater power and control you have over yourself. And today I'm going to give you some strategies on how you can become self-reliant, exactly like Jay-Z is. So like Jay dropped the Blueprint album, let me drop you the blueprint of self-reliance. Right, you know what, I've been dropping some mad bars recently. Jay, if you're watching this, you need to sign me ASAP before I start my own label and you regret not signing me, you know what I mean? Now, strategy number 1 is reclaiming your dead time. Now, time is a critical factor in our lives and it's our most precious resource. The problem is when we work for other people, is that so much of this time becomes dead, and what we want to do is just pass it as quickly as possible. Time that is not our own. So things like when you're at work and you just can't wait for it to finish. Now, don't get it twisted, almost every single person starts off their careers working for someone else, but it's always within our power to transform this time from something dead to something alive. And if we make the same determination to become an owner and not a minion of things, exactly like Jay did when he was made president of the Def Jam label for a few years, instead of treating it as a dead-end job and something to fill his time with, he used that position to learn the political games and played within companies, the nuts and bolts of business and the larger game going on in the business world and how he could do things better. And that's what I mean by reclaiming your dead time. If you're currently in a job, instead of thinking it as a waste of time, pay attention and absorb as much information as possible. Remember, your bosses prefer to keep you in dependent positions. It's in their interest that you do not become self-reliant, and so they will tend to hoard information. You must secretly work against this and seize this information for yourself. Now, step 2 is what I like to call create little empires. While you're still working for others, your goal at the same time must be to carve out little areas that you can operate on your own, cultivating entrepreneurial skills. This could mean offering to take over projects that others have left undone, or put into action some new idea of yours. If your bosses don't allow you to make such a move on any scale, then it's not really the right place for you, because even if you do fail, you will still learn some valuable insights. I've failed in a lot more ventures than I've actually succeeded in, but in the ones I've succeeded in is because I learned from my mistakes. But genuinely taking on such things on your own initiative forces you to work harder and work better. Again, you're more creative and motivated because there is more at stake and you rise to the challenge. Keep in mind the following: what you really value in life is ownership, not money. If ever there's a choice, more money or more responsibility, you must always opt for the more responsibility. A lower paying position that offers more room to make decisions and carve out little empires for yourself is infinitely preferable to something that pays well but constricts your movements. And step 3 is move higher up the food chain. Now, as I mentioned before, Jay prefers ownership over partnerships. Reason being is that people are political creatures regardless, continually scheming to secure their own interests. If you form partnerships with them or depend on them for your advancement and protection, you're asking for trouble. They will either turn against you at some point or use you to get what they really want. And your goal in life must be always to move higher and higher up in the food chains, where you alone control the direction of your enterprise and depend on no one. And that's what Jay did on his come up. In the present, you must strive to keep yourself free of unnecessary entanglements and alliances. And if you can't avoid having partners, make sure that you are clear as to what function they serve for you and how you will free yourself out of them at the right moment. Now, I may cover a video exactly how Jay did this with his dispute with Damon Dash over the ROC-A-FELLA label, so if you do want me to cover that, let me know. But back to the point, you must remember when people give you things or do you favors, it is always with strings attached. They want something from you in return. That could be either assistance or unquestioned loyalty and so forth. You want to keep yourself free as of many of these obligations as possible, so get in the habit of taking what you need for yourself instead of expecting others to give it to you. And the final strategy we're going to cover is making your enterprise a reflection of your individuality. Now, All the things that I've said have been an education in developing your skills and self-reliance necessary for creating your own venture and by being your own boss. That's what my channel's really dedicated about. But there is one last thing to make this work. Everyone tends to look at what other people have done in their field and try emulate or try to become them. Now this can work a bit in the short term, but it won't last long. Let's understand one thing. Us humans are one of a kind. Our character traits are a kind of chemical mix that will never be repeated in history. There are ideas that are unique to us, a specific rhythm and perspective that are our strengths, not our weaknesses. You must not be afraid of your uniquenesses, and you must care less and less of what people think of you. This has been the path that Jay-Z took, and as well as other powerful people, Jay refused to try and emulate or try to be someone else. He created his own inimitable style based on himself and his own personality. By going his own way, he altered the course of rappers' careers forever. This uniqueness that you express is not anything wild or too strange. People are rarely different, but by being yourself and letting your personality shine, the world cannot help but respond to such authenticity. I mean, if you watch interviews of Jay, he doesn't conform and try to be a different person. He's just being himself, and where you can easily tell he's very introverted, but that's just who he is and that's his style, simple as that. And that's the last point I'm going to leave at for now. The whole point I'm making in this video is just becoming self-reliant, and here are just some strategies to do so. And if you would like more videos like this, make sure you leave a comment below. And if you are interested in some more ideas and strategies, I've created a brand new program for entrepreneurs, so if you are interested, just click the link in the description. And if you are new to the channel, welcome to the channel, and to all our loyal subscribers, we are glad you are here. We aim to create at least one high quality animated video per week, so make sure you subscribe to ensure you don't miss out on any golden knowledge. I'll see you soon.